keeping it now in the world of Formula One, because as Kobe said at the top of the show, one of the worst kept secrets inside the Formula One paddock was made official at Monza as well. Kimi Antonelli will graduate from Formula 2 and become a full-time Mercedes F1 driver to replace Lewis Hamilton in 2025. Now, at 18 years old, Antonelli has taken a fast track to the pinnacle of motorsport. In 2019, when he was 12 years old, he became a Mercedes development driver. After dominating the FIA Karting European Championship and the WSK Euro Series, he quickly moved on from karting and graduated to single-seaters. Antonelli made this look easy too, winning the 2022 championships in ADAC and Italian F4, and then claiming the 2023 Formula Regional European Championship as well. For the 2024 season, Mercedes decided that Antonelli should skip Formula 3 altogether, so they put together a program for him in Formula 2 with Prema. Now, after rising above the best of the competition early in his racing career, his only season F2 has definitely been humbled and more challenging for the young Italian. So far, only 2 race victories, the sprint race at Silverstone and a feature race in Hungary. Then he got to make his free practice 1 debut last weekend at Monza for Mercedes in place of George Russell in front of his home crowd. But Antonelli's first FP1 session ended with a crash, the photo courtesy there of Mercedes. Well, he's been brewing in the background. Toto Wolff has had his eye on him. Apparently, 5 minutes after Lewis Hamilton told him he was leaving for Mercedes. Don't believe that for 1 minute. Yes, I know he's been planned to take over the Mercedes seat. Do I think he was going to be in for 2025? No, I thought 2026. But the question, as Kobe joined us now, we'll go to him first. Do you think Antonelli can handle all of the pressure of being a Mercedes Formula One driver? And does his FP1 crash concern you that Mercedes is rushing him up a bit too soon?
Well, like I always say when it comes to many of these news stories, Josh, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But the one thing you can't deny is all the time and money that Mercedes have poured into Kimi Antonelli to make sure that he's ready for this jump to Formula One. And Josh, you just read a timeline of his racing career. It's really crazy now that it's the year 2024, and 2019 doesn't really seem too long ago, which is which is really crazy. I remember what I was doing in 2019. I think I was about halfway through my time at university,
Same
just
here.
just trying to make it in life, try to make it into the world of motorsports. And here was this kid, 12-year-old Kimi Antonelli, just getting started. And I think it's really crazy in just a matter of 6 years. He goes from like the very beginning level of motor racing over there in Europe. And then all of a sudden he's going to become a Formula One driver, just a remarkable rise. And there's obviously been a lot of hype behind Kimi Antonelli for the last several years, saying that he's like a generational talent that, and even I said on this show, he's basically the Victor Wembanyama of motorsports. This young sensational generational talent that only comes around one time every 10 years. So if you want to sign a young driver to build your program around, this is the guy. And a lot of people believe that Kimi Antonelli, is going to be the type of driver. You give him the proper car, he can go out there, win a whole bunch of Formula One Grand Prix races and multiple world championships as well. So sky's the limit for him. And yes, do I think he can handle all the pressure of being a Mercedes F1 driver? Well, he really doesn't have a choice. I always said that I thought Antonelli would probably benefit from doing one more year of Formula 2. I think that really could have helped him. I know this year, just filling things out. This is like the first time in Kimi's racing career where he's actually, I don't want to say struggled, but, not go out and dominate, the competition like we've seen during these seasons in the other categories leading up to Formula 2. It didn't surprise me that they skipped Formula 3 altogether, but it probably wouldn't have hurt him to do Formula 3 to move up to F2. But this is the program that he's on. And if he did go to Formula 1 next year, I thought it would be a good idea for him to drive for Williams, and then go up to Mercedes the following year or two. But obviously Williams had other plans when they brought in Carlos Sainz to occupy that seat. And leading up to the show, I read a whole bunch of transcripts from Toto Wolff over the weekend, see what he had to say about Antonelli. And interestingly enough, he said he learned from his mistake with George Russell. He felt like he kept George Russell at Williams way too long, and he didn't want to make the same mistake with Kimi. So he figured, no time is like the present, to bring him up into the Mercedes F1 team. And I think Kimi is obviously going to have a lot of pressure on his hands. And Toto even went on and talked about George's time at Williams. You say how George was a young driver, he made a whole bunch of mistakes, but it happened at Williams, where there's not a lot of pressure, where you can get away with making certain mistakes at Williams versus Mercedes. And if Kimi makes a mistake, just like he did in free practice 1 at Monza, a lot of people are going to, start talking about all of this. But even Toto himself, typically you see these F1 team principals, they get very frustrated, when these young drivers, crash cars and make mistakes. That's how that turned out for Logan Sargent Williams with James Vowles and all of that. Yeah, they don't usually like that. But Toto was like, it happens. Kimi needs to learn, when to push, when to not. And FP1 was a time for him not to push. Yeah, so Toto just basically said that was a learning experience for Kimi there. And I'm actually not concerned about his FP1 crash, being a concern that he's moving up too quickly. We've seen the best of the best, crash at Monza, any other circuit. I'm actually going to agree with Toto on this, that this is, his first time in a proper F1 session, and he was just pushing it way too hard. And that's a lesson that he's going to have to learn. It's better to learn it now, the next season. Yeah, but overall, I think Kimi Antonelli is more than likely going to be okay. And I do understand all the concerns about having him rushed up. I probably wouldn't have rushed him up to Formula One this quickly, or even to Mercedes. Probably would have sat him in the Williams car for a season or two. But this is the decision that's been made, and we'll have to see how it turns out for Kimi Antonelli. Looking forward to seeing what he can do in 2025 and beyond.
Good to see that Toto has, in retrospect, realised that leaving George at Williams for far too long was a mistake. On the crash that he had on Friday, emulating the safety car going in on the same corner on Thursday afternoon, of course, which was made us give us all a smile, didn't it, when Maylander crashed the Aston Martin. The onboard, if you watch the onboard, he was driving it like it was a Q3 lap. He was absolutely hammering the thing, and just made a mistake. But putting him in the spotlight and give it, is he going to get the crashes out of his system and mistakes out of his system early? That's going to be one we'll have to watch out for as the season progresses next year. Is he going to do what they used to say about Marco Simoncelli in MotoGP? He got all his crashing out, and not Simoncelli as well, but like people like Stoner and stuff, he got their crashes out the way, and then when they'd done all their crashing, they were really fast and really consistent. So maybe that's a thing that we'll have to watch out for. His F2 form has been, as you mentioned, Josh, a little bit up and down, 2 race wins. But we're in a different F2 this year than we were last year with this new car, and all the teams are taking their time to figure it out. And we've had all sorts of mechanical melodies with it as well at the beginning of the season. So, and always shuffles. Yeah, Mechachrome clutches and all sorts of things. Always takes them a little while, and it always shuffles the deck in F2 when we get a new chassis. And Prema, of course, have been one of the top teams in it for a long time, and now they're struggling a little bit. But both of their drivers are going to Formula One next year. What's he going to do? I think he's going to be fine. It might take him a few races to get up to the speed of his teammate, but he's got the team behind him and he's got plenty of experience. So of course it will take time. But I think he's going to be fine. Let's hope for his sake that his candle doesn't burn extremely brightly and then fizzle out once he gets to the top step at Formula One. That's going to be something to watch out for over the next couple of years, especially with the maybe less talked about talent coming in next year, like Ollie Behrman and to some extent, and we saw it at the weekend, Franco Colapinto, who of course apparently nobody had ever heard of, but he did a great job at Williams at the weekend. So let's see. Again, that's a phrase I often say on this show. We'll have to just wait and see how it goes. But I think he's going to do just fine. Will he be at Hamilton levels of performance? I expect not. That's a huge step to take. But Mercedes have got to get their act together with the car as well, of course. So if they're not at the front end like they have been the last couple of years, then it doesn't give him as much of a chance to show us what he can do.
Antonelli will definitely win a race next year, 100%. If with the regulations closing in the way they are and everything like that, he's 100% going to win a race. So, also, just quickly, I was talking to Burt Malander actually in 2019, coincidentally enough, and it was when I was doing a pit walk and he was there with the safety car. I said to him, have you ever had an accident with a safety car or anything like that? He never crashed the safety car. So that was the first time he's crashed the safety car that weekend as well. So yeah, not the greatest to happen, but that's one car he won't have in that barn as well. That where he keeps them all. If you haven't seen it, Google it on YouTube. He's got a barn full of old safety cars dating back to 2000. It's really quite nice. Mercedes and now Aston Martin. But with Mercedes and Hamilton departing the team, Mercedes bringing in a young driver with plenty of upside. The team will be asking George Russell to step up as leader next year. Now, since 2022, Russell has been learning under the wings of Hamilton, and now he gets to play the role of mentor with the team as Antonelli gets up to speed as well. Russell said Antonelli's junior Formula record is formidable and that he deserves this promotion up to Formula One. He mentioned how Hamilton mentored him early in his F1 career, and he hopes to do the same for Antonelli by providing guidance. We definitely saw that as a case for Hamilton, always talking to George and giving him advice on corners and doing many a track walk with him as well. So is George Russell ready to assume his new role as the team leader? And how long do you think that this honeymoon period will last between him and Antonelli?
Well, yes, I think George is ready. He's been there, 3 years now, off the top of my head, 3 years at the top team there. So, and now he's going to be the number one driver. He's got the experience of the team, how everything works, etc., etc. And this young kid's going to have to look to George for some guidance, and see how they go. But if the tables get turned and we turn up at Melbourne next year and Mercedes have got the best car and Antonelli wins on debut, then we've got a show on our hands, haven't we, if that's the case? So again, much to my answer in the previous bit, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I think if they've got a good car under them, and as you say, I was about to burn a hot then, but I'll keep it for later. The parity in the championship at the moment is just extraordinary. If Mercedes are up there and they've got two guys fighting at the front, every chance, as you said, Josh, that Antonelli can win a race next season. It's not without outside the realms of possibility.
Yeah, going to go to Kobe now with some breaking news, if he's ready to throw it in as well. So, Kobe.
Yeah, I'll get to it on a second, Josh. But first, gonna answer the question so we can close out our Formula One. Yeah, close out our F1 segment before we get to our breaking news. That you asked about George Russell being ready to assume this role as team leader. Yeah, I think George is absolutely ready for this. He's already shown, that time and time again that he can be a leader on this team, and he's learned from one of the best leaders there is in the Formula One paddock, in Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure he's taken a lot from Lewis in the last few seasons since they've been teammates, and George is ready to run with this new opportunity to be the top driver at Mercedes and help lead the team into this new era without Lewis Hamilton being there. And yeah, I think at first, it'll be all good between him and Kimi Antonelli. But as Kimi Antonelli, starts to get that experience and up to speed in Formula One, and we start to get to the point where Kimi is, let's say he starts out performing George and all of that, then obviously things aren't going to be as nice as they seem in Monza, with George wanting to be his mentor and help out Kimi. But, it's a different story on the racetrack. And once you see one driver outperforming the other, then that's when things get a little tense. I don't really know how long this so-called honeymoon period will last, but certainly I'm sure at some point in the future, Russell and Antonelli won't see eye to eye on something. It's just inevitable. It happens between all of them. Look where Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are right now. We thought, that they'd be, I guess I don't want to say buddy for the longest time, and now we're talking about team orders in F1 with the McLaren team, and especially how that Italian Grand Prix worked out for McLaren. Total missed opportunity there. So yeah, I think we could potentially see some fireworks there in the future. But for the time being, just going to sit back and enjoy the news and the exciting driver pairing that we're going to see next year